There's an old story told in the early days of the Buddha's life as a teacher. One evening, as the golden hues of sunset stretched across the sky, a wealthy merchant approached the Buddha. The man was adorned in fine silks, rings of polished gold glinting on his fingers, and the unmistakable scent of expensive sandalwood oil trailing behind him. He bowed respectfully and asked a question that has echoed through the centuries, a question many of us still carry in some quiet corner of our hearts today. "Venerable One," the merchant began, "must a man give up all his possessions, abandon his wealth, and live in poverty to follow your path? Can one who lives amidst material comfort truly walk the way of wisdom?" The air fell still, the soft sounds of the evening fading into the hush of curiosity. It wasn't just a question about wealth. It was a question about life itself, a question about meaning, about where peace is found, and whether it can truly coexist with the clinking of coins and the comforts of worldly life. We live in an age of endless desire. Advertisements whisper to us from every screen, promising that happiness lies in the next phone, the next car, the next exotic vacation. We chase after numbers in bank accounts, square footage in homes, likes on posts, and digits on scales. And yet, for all our possessions, peace remains elusive. There's a strange irony to it. We accumulate more but feel emptier. We own more things but feel increasingly owned by them. It's easy to assume, then, that Buddhism, a path so often associated with monks in saffron robes and silent, empty monasteries, must reject material things altogether. That it must frown upon wealth, upon possessions, upon the glittering objects we surround ourselves with. But is that truly the case? Does Buddhism teach us to despise the material world, to flee from it in search of some austere, joyless purity? Or does it offer a subtler wisdom, one that understands the nature of things not in condemnation but in clarity? The merchant's question wasn't just about gold and silk. It was about freedom, freedom from attachment, freedom from being ruled by what we own or what we wish we owned. And in his answer, the Buddha planted a seed of timeless truth, a teaching not about what to possess or relinquish, but about the way we hold our lives and the stories we tell ourselves about them. This is a journey worth taking, not to a mountaintop monastery, but right here in the everyday world of jobs, relationships, responsibilities, and yes, possessions. Because the question isn't whether you have things, it's whether those things have you. Tonight, we'll trace the wisdom of an ancient path through the lens of our modern lives. We'll unravel the misunderstandings about Buddhism's relationship with material things and uncover what it truly teaches about wealth, possessions, and the nature of desire. Not as an abstract philosophy, not as a distant monastic code, but as a living, breathing, deeply human way to find peace in a world that constantly pulls us toward restlessness. So take a breath, let the noise of the day settle, and as you listen to these words, ask yourself quietly, what am I holding on to? And what might it mean to let go, not of the thing itself, but of the fear behind it? This isn't a sermon about poverty, nor is it a celebration of luxury. It's a reflection on balance, on the delicate, beautiful art of living fully in the world without becoming lost in it. Because as the Buddha once taught, it's not what you hold in your hands that binds you. It's what you cling to in your heart. And the difference between the two can shape the entire course of a life. Let's begin. If we're going to understand Buddhism's view on material things, and more importantly, our relationship with them, we need to start not with wealth, not with possessions, but with life itself. Because the Buddha didn't teach about money for the sake of money or objects for the sake of objects. He taught about the mind, about how we experience the world, about the invisible forces shaping our happiness and our suffering. And at the heart of his wisdom lies something ancient, simple, and unsettlingly true, the three marks of existence. Three universal qualities that quietly define everything we see, touch, love, lose, and cling to. They aren't beliefs. They aren't moral rules. They are observations about how reality behaves. The first mark is called anicca, impermanence. Nothing lasts. Not your joy, not your pain, not your youth, not your wealth. Not the cherry blossoms in spring, nor the grief of heartbreak. Everything moves, everything shifts, everything eventually dissolves. And yet we resist this truth. We try to hold on. We clutch at moments, people, titles, and things, hoping to make them permanent in a world built on change. That resistance is what makes us suffer, not the loss itself, but our refusal to accept it. The second mark is dukkha, unsatisfactoriness. It's a difficult word to translate. Some call it suffering, but it's more subtle than that. It's the itch you can't quite scratch, the emptiness after you finally buy what you've been craving, the tension beneath even your happiest moments because somewhere deep down you know they can't last. It's not that life is only pain. It's that even our pleasures are laced with unease, because they too are bound to anicca, to impermanence. This is why we chase more money, more love, more validation, more distractions, because what we have never feels quite enough, and what we fear to lose always feels too precious. The third mark is anatta, not self. Perhaps the most radical and the most liberating. It suggests that what we call the self, this bundle of thoughts, feelings, preferences, fears, and possessions, isn't a solid, unchanging thing. It's a process, a collection of moments, endlessly arising and passing away, like a flame constantly fed by conditions. And yet we cling to the illusion of a fixed me. We say my car, my job, my reputation, my success, as though these things could define who we are. But if the self is a river, not a rock, then to cling to any possession, any identity, as though it could grant permanent satisfaction, is like trying to hold on to water in a closed fist. These three truths, impermanence, unsatisfactoriness, and not self, form the foundation of Buddhist thought. And they aren't meant to depress us. They're meant to wake us up. Because if we deeply see that all things change, if we realize that clinging leads to unease, if we understand that there's no solid self at the center of it all, then perhaps, just perhaps, we might loosen our grip on the things we've mistaken for salvation. Not to reject them, not to flee from the world, but to hold them lightly. A beautiful home is still beautiful. A tender relationship is still precious. A good meal is still worth savoring. But we no longer pin our freedom to their presence, and we no longer collapse when they fade. This is the wisdom behind the Buddha's gentle smile when the merchant asked his question. Because the path isn't about hating wealth. It's about seeing clearly. Wealth isn't evil, neither is poverty virtuous by default. The question is, how do you relate to what you possess? Do you own it, or does it own you? The three marks remind us that whatever you hold in your hand, your home, or your heart, will one day slip away. And clinging to what cannot stay is the surest recipe for sorrow. But here's the quiet miracle. When you stop demanding permanence from impermanent things, when you release your need to extract lasting fulfillment from the fleeting, you begin to taste a different kind of peace. A peace that isn't bought, isn't lost, and doesn't depend on what you have or lack. It's a peace born of clarity, of seeing things as they are, and loving them all the same. And so, with this foundation beneath our feet, we turn our gaze back to the world of things, to wealth, to possessions, to the glittering distractions and comforts of modern life. But now, with wiser eyes, because the question isn't whether you live with abundance or simplicity, it's whether you live awake. It's one thing to recognize that clinging to material things brings suffering. It's another to know what to do about it. Some believe the answer is to reject the world entirely, to cast off wealth, pleasure, even basic comforts, retreating into caves, fasting until bones show, shunning beauty, love, and joy. Others swing to the opposite extreme. If nothing lasts, they reason, then why not drown in indulgence? Chase every thrill. Surround yourself with riches, with lovers, with endless distractions, and let the emptiness catch you later. But the Buddha walked a different path, and it was a path forged not in theory, but in the marrow of his own suffering. Before his awakening, the Buddha was Siddhartha Gautama, a prince wrapped in silk and luxury, surrounded by musicians, fine foods, fragrant gardens. His father built walls to shield him from sorrow, disease, death. For years, Siddhartha knew only pleasure. And yet, even in that glittering world, a quiet unease stirred in his heart. An ache no jewel could silence. When he finally stepped outside those walls and witnessed sickness, aging, and death for the first time, the illusion shattered. And so, desperate to find peace, he swung to the other extreme. For 6 long years, he lived as an ascetic, wearing rags, sleeping on cold ground, eating barely enough to survive. His body withered, his spirit dimmed. And yet, enlightenment did not come. Until one morning, weak and near death, he heard a lute being tuned. If the string is too tight, it snaps. If it's too loose, it won't play. In that moment, it struck him the path isn't found in extremes, not in indulgence, not in deprivation, but in balance. A simple, steady way, neither rejecting the world nor drowning in it. He called it the middle way. And this, perhaps, is one of the most misunderstood truths in Buddhism. Because it doesn't demand that you give up your home, your family, your favorite cup of tea, or the warmth of a good conversation. Nor does it encourage you to lose yourself in endless consumption. Instead, it invites you to live with awareness, to enjoy what arises without needing it to complete you, to let go of what fades without bitterness, to meet life not as a battlefield between desire and denial, but as a river, sometimes fierce, sometimes gentle, always moving. And you, the witness, the traveler, learning when to hold, when to release. The middle way isn't middle in the sense of mediocrity or compromise. It isn't about choosing halfway good over great or poor. It's middle in the sense of freedom from extremes, a clarity that neither overvalues nor rejects what life brings. You can savor a beautiful meal without being enslaved by cravings. You can own a home without mistaking it for your soul's sanctuary. You can succeed in your work without becoming its prisoner. This is not about less pleasure, it's about less attachment. The middle way honors the richness of being human, our joys, our struggles, our strange longing for permanence in a world built on change. It reminds us that peace isn't found in clinging to the light or fearing the dark, but in standing where the two meet, fully awake. And so, when the merchant asked, "Does Buddhism reject material things?" the true answer is not a simple yes or no. It's this: Buddhism invites us to see material things for what they are, neither salvation nor sin, but fleeting forms in a shifting world. To hold them lightly, to release them when it's time, to enjoy them without losing yourself, and to walk the middle way, a path not paved in gold nor dust, but in steady, mindful steps, because only from that place of balance can we truly see. And what we'll see, well, that's the story waiting just ahead. It's one thing to hear about the middle way, to picture a serene monk seated beneath a bodhi tree, untouched by wealth or poverty, desire or disdain. But what about us? Those of us who live in crowded cities, who raise children, run businesses, pay bills, dream of a better house, a safer future, a moment to breathe. Is the pursuit of wealth a betrayal of the path? Is it wrong to want comfort, to strive for prosperity, to build a legacy? This is where most misunderstand Buddhism. You see, the Buddha never condemned wealth itself. He condemned attachment. He warned not of gold, but of the chain we forge from it, not of comfort, but of craving. Because wealth, like fire, can warm a home or burn it to the ground. In one of the oldest sutras, a wealthy merchant approached the Buddha with a trembling voice. "Master, is it wrong to be rich?" And the Buddha, smiling gently, replied, "Wealth is not evil. The hand that holds it determines whether it blesses or destroys. It wasn't wealth that bound people in suffering. It was the delusion that wealth alone could bring peace. The belief that if we just had a little more, another acre, another title, another admirer, we'd finally arrive. But arrival is an illusion, because desire by its nature moves the goalpost. Today's enough becomes tomorrow's not yet." The Buddha spoke of 4 kinds of happiness for householders. 1, the joy of earning wealth righteously, through honest effort, skill, and integrity. 2. The joy of safeguarding wealth, providing for family, offering security to loved ones. 3. The joy of sharing wealth, through charity, generosity, and uplifting others, for the joy of being free from debt. Not merely financial, but freedom from the burden of dishonest acts and restless cravings. Notice, none of these condemn material prosperity. They simply place it within a frame of wisdom. Wealth gained with greed breeds suffering. Wealth gained with mindfulness, shared with open hands, becomes a tool for compassion. And even then, Buddhism reminds us no matter how many treasures you gather, they cannot shield you from life's truths: aging, sickness, loss, death. A golden bed cannot grant a peaceful sleep to a restless heart. 1,000 friends cannot comfort a spirit gnawed by craving. But a simple life, held with awareness, can glow brighter than palaces. This is why the middle way was never a renunciation of the world. It was an invitation to live within it wisely, to build your home, tend your work, enjoy your comforts without mistaking them for your essence. A wealthy person can be as free as a monk if they hold riches like water in cupped hands, to drink, to share, to release when spilled. Not clutched, not mourned. Buddhism understands that most people won't leave their families to become monks, nor should they. The world needs healers, teachers, artists, builders. It needs parents who raise kind children, merchants who trade with honesty, leaders who govern with wisdom. The question isn't whether you own things, but whether things own you. It isn't whether you make money, but whether you lose yourself in its pursuit. And so, to those walking the household life, Buddhism offers this: earn with integrity, share with compassion, live with mindfulness, and remember, everything you own, one day you'll leave behind. But what you give in kindness, in wisdom, in courage, those echoes endure. Because in the end, no wealth is greater than a mind at peace. And that you can carry beyond this life. We spend our lives chasing, don't we? Chasing titles, chasing beauty, chasing praise, chasing wealth. And for a while it feels good. A new car gleams beneath the sun. A promotion tastes like victory. The latest phone, the most coveted invitation, the rarest possession, each offers a fleeting spark. But like fireflies in the night, these moments glow and then vanish. It isn't desire that binds us. Desire is natural. A bird desires food. A child desires warmth. A traveler desires rest. The problem lies not in wanting, but in clinging, in grasping so tightly to what we own that it begins to own us. The Buddha called this upadana, attachment. The sticky craving, not for the thing itself, but for what it means to us. Not the house, but what it says about our worth. Not the money, but the power it pretends to offer. Not the praise, but the illusion of being enough. And like a spider spinning silk around its prey, attachment wraps us, thread by thread. A scholar once asked the Buddha, "Why do men suffer, even in prosperity?" The Buddha answered, "Because even amid plenty, their hearts are restless. What they have, they fear losing. What they don't have, they long for. And so, their days pass in a fever of anxiety. Look closely and you'll see it everywhere. A man buys a car not for travel but to be seen. A woman hoards jewels not for beauty but for security. A merchant refuses to share not from need but from fear. And slowly, what began as possessions become cages. The house must be bigger, the followers more numerous, the applause louder. We drink salt water thinking it will quench us, but thirst only deepens. Buddhism isn't about rejecting desire, it's about seeing through it, noticing how a fleeting pleasure whispers more, how a simple craving mutates into obsession. The mind, when unaware, is like a monkey leaping from branch to branch, restless, grasping, never satisfied. But awareness slows the leap. It lets us hold a thing in our hands without binding our hearts to it, to enjoy a meal without needing to possess the chef, to wear fine clothes without believing they define us, to earn money without mistaking it for our worth. The Buddha taught of the 8 winds, the forces that toss human hearts like leaves, gain and loss, honor and disgrace, praise and blame, pleasure and pain. Most people are blown about by these winds. A word of praise lifts them. A word of blame crushes them. A fortune gained inflates them. A fortune lost shatters them. But the wise feel the wind and yet remain rooted, not because they reject life, but because they see its nature. Everything changes. Everything fades. And clinging to the impermanent only ensures heartbreak. So the question isn't whether you own a fine home or a simple hut, whether you wear silk or coarse cloth. The question is, when those things are taken, will your heart break? When fortune turns, will you crumble? When beauty fades, will you mourn yourself? There's a story of a king who asked a sage for a sentence so wise, it would comfort him in sorrow and humble him in pride. The sage carved onto a ring, "This too shall pass," and so it does. Wealth, fame, youth, suffering, failure all pass. The trick is not to trap your happiness inside these things, not to stake your peace on what flickers. The monk, the merchant, the mother, the artist all walk the same earth, and all must one day release what they grasp. But those who loosen their grip now live lighter. They laugh more, fear less, love deeper, because nothing can be truly owned. And the peace that comes from letting go is the one thing no one can steal. And perhaps this is what the Buddha meant when he said, "Live like a lotus rooted in the mud, yet untouched by its stain." You don't need to abandon the world. Just refuse to be bound by it. The world today hums with endless noise. Ads flicker on screens we carry in our pockets. Billboards promise happiness with every new product. Every click whispers, "Buy this, own that, be more." Never before in human history have we been so relentlessly chased, not by predators but by promises. And we, like moths to the glow, keep circling. A new phone every year, a wardrobe for every season. A life measured not in quiet moments but in likes, followers, status symbols. We don't just consume, we let consumption define us. The car you drive, the brand you wear, the vacation you post. Each becomes a statement, not about what you enjoy, but about who you want others to think you are. And beneath it all, a question pulses, restless. Am I enough yet? This is not new. Desire has always stirred in human hearts. But what's different now is the scale, the speed, the precision. Modern consumer culture is a machine finely tuned, endlessly persuasive. It knows your fears, it reads your cravings, and it sells you the illusion of fulfillment at the click of a button. A product for your loneliness, a gadget for your boredom, a service for your insecurities. But here's what the Buddha would ask. If what you seek could be bought, why does the craving remain? In the ancient texts, there's a parable. A man dying of thirst drinks from a salty river. Each sip worsens his thirst, but the craving blinds him to the bitterness. He drinks and drinks until the river takes him. Modern life, for many, feels much the same. We chase the next thing, and for a heartbeat it feels good. A new job, a new outfit, a new follower count. But soon the emptiness returns, because no object can heal a wound of the heart. No product can silence the fear of impermanence. No possession can shield you from loss, aging, or death. And yet, amidst the glitter and noise, the Dharma endures. It doesn't shout, it doesn't sell, it doesn't beg for followers. It simply waits, like a quiet forest beyond the neon lights. A reminder that true freedom isn't in having more, but needing less. That joy isn't in what you acquire, but in how lightly you hold what you have. That peace isn't a transaction, but a practice. In ancient India, when kings would ask the Buddha how to live well amidst riches, he didn't demand poverty. He taught detachment within abundance. Possess things, but let them not possess you. This perhaps is the wisdom we need most now. You don't have to abandon your phone. You don't need to live in a cave. Modern life isn't the enemy. Ignorance is. The ignorance that says you are your wealth. That whispers happiness is one purchase away. That convinces you to trade your peace for a momentary thrill. But you can choose differently. You can walk through this world of abundance with clarity, appreciate beauty without grasping, enjoy comfort without addiction, earn wealth without losing your soul to it. Because even in a world designed to distract you, mindfulness is possible. Even in a market built on craving, contentment can bloom. The lotus, after all, doesn't refuse to grow in the mud. It rises through it untouched, unsoiled, luminous. And you too can rise. Remember, what you truly are cannot be bought. Your worth was never for sale. And no possession, title, or social media following can add or subtract from your infinite intrinsic value. As we turn toward the final reflection, one truth remains. Letting go isn't loss. It's returning to yourself, to what cannot be taken, to what no amount of consumption can corrupt. And so our journey circles back, from the question of a traveling merchant lost between wealth and wisdom, to the ancient truths that have quietly shaped human hearts for centuries. We've wandered through teachings of impermanence, felt the delicate threads of suffering, discovered the silent clarity of the middle way, faced our own attachment to what we own and what owns us, and stood in the glow of neon cities, asking whether we're still truly free. Now, in this quiet moment, a single truth remains. You were never meant to carry so much. The Buddha never rejected life. He never told us to abandon joy, to fear beauty, or curse abundance. What he offered was far simpler, far more radical. Live fully, love freely, but hold it all lightly. Let wealth pass through your hands, not your heart. Let possessions serve you, not define you. Let the world's glitter remind you of its impermanence and its potential. Because whether you walk in silk or burlap, whether your home towers in glass or shelters under leaves, the deepest peace asks for neither. It only asks you to wake up. Wake up to the patterns you've inherited, to the cravings you mistake for needs, to the silent, unbreakable presence within you, the one thing no possession, no title, no tragedy can touch. This is what the ancient ones have whispered across centuries. A wisdom not trapped in temples or scrolls, but living in the pulse of every breath. And perhaps, if you listen closely, you'll hear it now. You are already enough. You have always been. The merchant of long ago. He returned home with no fortune but a wealth beyond counting. And maybe, so have you. As the world continues to sell you 1,000 things you don't need, may you remember the one thing you cannot lose. Your freedom, your peace, your clarity. Thank you for walking this path with me, not because it leads somewhere else, but because it leads you home. Until next time, traveler, be well, be free.